Everybody, welcome our guests and welcome a few new faces we have that have joined us with the Arts Commission. First, I'd like to read our legal statement that we are required prior to all meetings. The Metro Arts mission is to drive an equitable and vibrant community through the arts. Pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Arts Commission may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the Commission. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. So I'd like to welcome our new commissioner, Brittany Cole. Thank you for being here. This is your first meeting. Thank you. And a very warm welcome to our new finance administrator, Capri Harston. Thank you. I understand this is your first day, so welcome, being thrown right into it. Moving forward, I'd like to read our land acknowledgement that we hold before every meeting. Metro Arts stands and holds space on the unceded and sovereign lands of the Cherokee East, Eugene Shawnee peoples who have stewarded it for generations. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will, some were drawn to leave their distant homes in the hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. We acknowledge we are all standing on ancestral lands, and we honor the thousands of enslaved African peoples whose lives were physically and spiritually stolen. We pay respects to elders, past and present. Metro Arts invites you to join in our commitment to knowing our Native communities in more meaningful ways in alignment with our restorative arts and practice. In our next slide, you can see that we have some resources from a Native Land website that you can learn more about our land acknowledgement. Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask if there is any public comment, anyone here to speak, or anything submitted in writing prior to this meeting.
There have been no public comments submitted online, and we do not have anyone in the room today on the list. Did anyone miss signing in? Okay, give me 1 second, Campbell.
Thank you.
So we have no public comment.
Thank you, Vivian. Moving into our minutes, I know you all received a packet last night or yesterday with minutes in them. We are going to defer those minutes for approval to the next meeting for both January 16th and March 3rd for some edits, and then you'll get the new draft and we'll approve that in the next meeting. Okay, we have an artist spotlight today. For a long time we were doing these, and I'm so excited that this has been brought back. Thank you, Chuck Beard. And I will hand it over to Chuck. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. As a songwriter, Kashana Armstrong has had the privilege of working with adults and youth experiencing homelessness, incarceration, recovery, trauma, and isolation. As a music therapist, she worked for more than 15 years in treatment facilities, rehabilitation programs, mental health facilities, forensics units, nursing homes, and public schools. With a degree in music therapy from the University of Georgia and nearly 20 years of songwriting experience, Kashana has merged her two worlds to focus on one mission: to be a voice and a vessel for those that feel lost, forgotten, silenced, and who are hurting. Kashana is the founder of Your Song, a collaborative songwriting program that connects performing arts centers, musicians, and artists with vulnerable communities to promote healing and community connectedness. Your Song is a fiscally sponsored project of the nonprofit organization called Unmanageable. On top of being an amazing artist and friend who helps all others in Nashville, Kashana was a featured artist alongside our former Commissioner Chair Ellen Angelico and our current Restorative Arts and Equity Manager Josiah Golson on last month's Metro Arts Forging Ahead TV show. Thanks for being here today, Kashana, to share your story and your song.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Hey, so as someone who moved to Nashville about 11 years ago from outside, I came here from Athens, Georgia, What I've realized is being in Music City, we've taken for granted the gift of songwriting and just how empowering it can be. Here in this town, songs are monetized. People are seen for their success by how a song is charted. But what we don't remember, what we forget, is the fact that there are stories behind many of these songs, the things that inspire us. Some of us as songwriters that are paid to write songs, we're getting the inspiration by stories we hear, and we forget to go to the people who have had these experiences. So here in Nashville, I've been able to work with programs such as Healing Housing, Thistle Farms, AIDS Garden, which with memory care units, and to sit in conversation with them, to hear their stories, and then empower them to take the words that are theirs, put them in the song, sing the songs, re-record them, and that is their anthem. And I may never sing these songs again, but it's their song to keep, and that is why it's called Your Song. And I think as a music therapist, I look at music as the tool. Music is a tool to be used to achieve a non-musical goal. So are we here to heal? Are we here to empower, to advocate? And I think it's something we forget. And I like to remind myself of that. So this song today is called Same Blood. And it's a reminder that it doesn't matter how different we look, how different we love, who we love, how we love, what we believe, and how we choose to believe in it. But if you cut us deep, we all have a story to tell. We all bleed the same. Oh man, Moses, he's wading in the river, trying to wash his hands free of the blood and the pain. Gotta tell his children while we kill each other, how after 2,000 years we still live this way. In the home of the brave, in the land of the free. If you're telling the truth, you got enemies. But it don't matter what you believe, no, we all bleed the same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood, same blood. We carry the sins of our fathers for years. We've learned how to hate, and we've learned what to fear. Where do we go? Where do we go from here? Can't undo all the bad that's been done. Can't put that bullet back in the gun. All you can do is try to love someone, yes. For goodness sake, won't you love someone? We all bleed the same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood, same blood. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, yes. Ooh, ooh. Ah, yeah. Come on now. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't cover your eyes, no. Ooh, no. Don't look away, child. Oh, no. Oh, don't cover your eyes. We all bleed the same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood, same blood. And we can remember this in the work we do. Come on. We all bleed the same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood. We all bleed the same blood, same blood, same blood. Thank you. Oh.
Shauna, that was amazing. Like, and hearing all the groups you work with, like such special work. And I just want to thank you personally. That was highlight of my time. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Chuck. Okay, so we're going to move into our action items and discussion. Starting with the executive committee, we did meet, when was that? April 17th, something like that, 2 weeks ago. And so we have 2 action items to bring to you all today, and then I have a chair's report to kind of cover that. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So let's go ahead and start with the first 2. I can update everyone on the executive director search. We reported this into the executive committee, and just an update. Ashley and I, our wonderful interim executive director, have met with Director Hall of HR, and next month, in June, Director Hall in our June meeting will come and speak to us, and the search will begin in July, and that will extend through the end of the year with hopes that the new executive director will have about a month of overlap with interim director Ashley for a seamless sort of transition. So in the meantime, when Director Hall comes in June, I think I'm the only one here that's been through a search for an ED for Metro Arts before. So she'll explain the process. It's very similar to last time. And I feel good about where we're going. And Ashley has very graciously agreed to stay on through that time. And that's where we are with executive search. So I know that one thing that the talent acquisition person would like to know is places to place the job, anywhere, put it through your networks, things like that. So, but I'm going to leave that to Director Hall when she comes in June to explain everything. Moving into committees. So you all should have received all of your committee assignments. The latest, I'd like to thank Commissioner Khalil for agreeing to be on PAC right before we came in. So yes, and Leslie, if you'll note that yes, so we've got that going on. Our bylaws, we're reviewing all of our bylaws. We voted last year for the executive committee to take that on along with our legal counsel, Tessa. And so we will be working on that through the summer and with the executive committee, and then bring those to you all for a final review and vote. And on committees, I think since we have a few minutes, if I can just run through really quickly. I have them. Okay, we have executive committee, which is always the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary, the immediate vice chair. The immediate past chair. We do not have that person. So, and then the normally 5th, which is 4th. So that's myself, Commissioner Harden, Commissioner Lefkowitz, Commissioner Knight, and then vacant is the immediate past chair. And interim executive director Batchelder is ex officio. CARE, the chair of that is Commissioner Harden, and the commissioner on that committee is Commissioner Yu. Grants, chair is Commissioner Lefkowitz. Immediate past chairs, Commissioner Jester, Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Wade, and Commissioner Khalil. Nominating is Commissioner Wade and Commissioner Kurtz. Commissioner Wade, if you want to talk about that, we can move you around or whatever you need. So we'll talk about it because we need to probably rebuild that. Public Art is myself as chair, Commissioner Brown, and Commissioner Khalil, and community members. And then the Audit and Finance is currently Commissioner Jester and myself, and we would like some volunteers to be on the Audit and Finance Committee. You can see the descriptions of each committee here, and that will lead me directly into our Advocacy Committee. So in our Executive Committee, we did vote to dissolve that committee and then realize that is a standing committee. So we need 2/3 of a full vote to dissolve a standing committee. And I'll just take a point of privilege just to explain my thoughts on dissolving that committee. It hasn't met in the past few years. And when we all take on this role as commissioners, we are taking on the role of advocacy within your communities, within your lives. That's what we do. Now, in the past, we have divvied up council people for all the commissioners to contact. I feel strongly that is our job in general. So this was one committee that had not been active in 2 years. So I do need to call an action to rescind the authorization of the Advocacy Committee as a standing committee. And there should be a slide for that. So the recommendation is to rescind authorization of the Advocacy Committee as a standing committee of the Arts Commission. And now I can take any questions about that.
What had the advocacy committee done previously that, in terms of specific action, that could be taken on by committee members?
So in the past, the chair of that committee would take each council person and then ask the full commission to take on several council people to contact and write. And so what I thought I could do is take that on myself instead, and along with the staff, send it out to you guys, see who you know. It primarily functions within budget season, but I feel like advocacy is a year-long thing. So I felt like just having an advocacy committee that met the specific purpose of the budget season was not working out as it should. And it felt like there was not really good coherence amongst that. So that was kind of my thinking on it, because that was the only time it was active. Now, in the past, before I was a commissioner, I will say that during budget season, and Ashley will touch on this, it's really important to show up to budget hearings, to really promote within your community, write your council member. As we all know, the mayor's budget will drop tomorrow. And so we'll see where we are there, and then the council will take theirs up with their amended budget, and we'll go through the process. But to answer your question, that was really the function. There was a spreadsheet, and it was handed out, and if I remember, I think there were 3 commissioners that signed up to contact any council people. So we can continue on with that. But having a committee of sorts, it wasn't functioning as a committee. So, Commissioner Lefkowitz?
Just to add to that, I'm wondering if, in addition to like maybe the individual piece, that maybe the chairs of each committee could look out for opportunities to raise advocacy issues within the committees themselves, so that it would be more integrated into what we're doing. So I will add that for grants, obviously, but to add that kind of as a piece to what we're thinking about for committees.
I love that. And I think that gives us more hands in the community, and that's fantastic. So were you ever on advocacy, Trina?
Oh,
Yes.
this is Myra, Commissioner Yu. I've received emails from different organizations inviting me to, we have this event, different places. So in my mind, I thought, well, those are, if I can go, I don't know if they send it to everybody, but if I can go, I go and I represent the Metro Arts Commission, and they're happy to see us there. Yes. And in my mind was something that I provide for the advocacy part, and talking to people, and showing up for certain events, then which I can go and attend. So I don't know. That's part of what I do.
That is part of advocacy, and that's well needed, much appreciated, and I think for any of us that can do that. Yep. Thank you.
Commissioner Cole, can you add some context on why it's been inactive the last few years?
Yes, the committee was small. We also lost several commissioners, and primarily that was the advocacy committee. So, yeah. Yeah, I was on it. But yeah, I think we lost the other 3, so. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Tessa, did you have?
Yeah, I did just want to clarify that the advocacy committee was operating generally as an ad hoc committee, and thanks to Ann Leslie's amazing investigatory work, she discovered that it was voted to be a standing committee in July of 2023, the month that we do not speak of, so ideally it would have been staffed over the past almost 2 years now, but it has not been. And so that's why we need a vote today to dissolve it as a standing committee. I'm more than willing to answer any questions about the procedural aspects of it or bylaw requirements of it.
Thank you, Tessa. And yes, thank you, Ann Leslie, to your investigative abilities, because when we moved this through executive committee, we were not aware. So it's 2/3 of the commission for a vote, right, Tessa?
Correct, to dissolve any standing committees, which are committees memorialized in the bylaws, requires 2/3 approval of the membership, so 2/3 of 15 members, so 10 affirmative votes.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Wade?
So if it was just in 2023 that the then commission decided that it needed to be a standing committee, I'm interested to know what that background was. Why was it determined 2 years ago in the midst of what was to be our equity practices increasing and things? If that commission at that time decided that it needed to be a standing committee, I'm interested to know. We know why we haven't done a lot of things in the last 2 years, but if it was at that time designated in support of equity practices, potentially, because I don't know, but it was around that time, if it were necessary to be a standing committee at that point, it gives me the impression that we were not doing what the advocacy committee would have done, and then what guardrails are there then for us to make sure that whatever the thinking around making it a standing committee at that time was, what are the guardrails that are going to make sure that we do that, right? So what are the policies, what are the standards, et cetera, that it came, excuse me, in my mind, at a crucial time for a crucial reason. And because we have been embroiled in all the other things, I would hate for us to be going back on something that was crucial at that time simply because we haven't done it in the midst of our crisis situation. I'd much rather we have an opportunity to practice it in the way that it was intended to be practiced, again, if it was equity-based, and then give ourselves some time to, before we make a decision to remove it, not having given it an opportunity to work.
Chair West, I don't want to usurp, but I can give the historical context to it becoming a standing committee. Right as and mind you, my time working for Metro predated this becoming a standing committee by 3 months. So the 3 prior months to the vote in July of 2023, making it a standing committee, there had been success in the advocacy plan, right? It had basically came to fruition. The additional $2 million of surplus funding was going to be allocated to the Arts Commission for grants and funding, which was at that time the biggest fiscal amount given to this commission for grants and funding. And the commission at the time felt like that was a direct result of the ad hoc advocacy committee doing the work that they did, going out to various council members, community groups, things like that, advocating for 1% to the arts. Also, former Director Singh was a strong proponent of 1% of Metro's budget to the arts. And so that is the historical context of why the commission wanted it to become a standing committee, because they felt that the work had came to fruition and that we could make a push, the commission could make a push, I am not part of the commission, could make a push to get the 1% moving forward. And Chair West, I hope that summarizes it fairly.
It does. It puts in context from ad hoc to standing. I do very much appreciate your question. We have the ability to rethink any committee that we want to, right? Advocacy could be moved into a place of community engagement, something like that. But the equity piece, the advocacy, when it was, because I was not present for, I was on commission, but not present for that. My understanding is that it's always been for the 1%. I was there when it was made ad hoc, and it was always just to try to advocate for more money for the arts. And so if we want to keep this as a standing committee, I'm totally for that. But we would need to rethink what that committee is doing and who and what that will look like. Because currently the definition is advocating for an increase in funding in the arts. So we can push this off for another vote and think it over. I can defer it. It's really up to you all. Another thing in thinking about this, Ashley will touch on the legislation. We all know we're going from 15 to 11. So if we are at 11, we're going to need to have more people on each committee, 2 to 3 people. Each commissioner will need to serve on 2 to 3 committees. So it's really, but that's an excellent question. But when it was first brought together, it was primarily so during that budget time that everyone was reaching out to advocate for more money. but not in a sense of equity. That more allied with care, I believe. But we can make those changes, or I can pull this off action.
Can I ask? I will say, I appreciate what you said, Commissioner Wade, about guardrails or thinking about integration so that if it does go away, I think that was my point about like, is there a way that work fits within committee work, or is it better to have a separate structure that's dedicated to that? And I will say in terms of advocacy, like in terms of just numbers and, showing up at council and things like that, there used to be more of a presence, right? There used to be, there were larger numbers of people who showed up, I think. And I think that what I'm remembering about, I wasn't here during the formation of the advocacy, but that was a part of thinking about building that community and building a public presence, right? For advocacy, particularly around the budget, I guess. But so I would be open to anything, but I do think it's maybe part of a larger conversation when I'm hearing about thinking about how we want to be strategic in organizing the work of the committees.
I just have 2 points. It would seem to me that in the last year and a half, one, we still need the 1%, and we need it to be ongoing. And so for that reason, my belief is we definitely still need an actual advocacy committee. Second point, in all of the last year and a half, 2 years, there has been so much turmoil that it probably is also a great idea for us not to just be advocating for the 1%, but to be building relationships with council members. And for me, if that happens through the advocacy committee that we have seen work, then I'm going to suggest and I'm going to vote for maintaining it as a standing committee. And so it sounds good for us to put it on another committee or consider how we might do it or eventually develop guidelines, but those are some of the same kinds of conversations, unfortunately, we've had for the last year and a half, specifically around underrepresented districts and all those things. And so I'd rather we not kick the can down the street on this one. If, one, we saw it work, and two, we need to rebuild and solidify relationships with council people. It's very easy for me to intend to go to council meetings and to intend to go to X, Y, or Z, and if I am not, don't have to, nobody knows I'm coming and things of that nature, then sometimes it's easier for me to opt to do the other thing. So whether we vote on it today, whether we push it down the road, I'm going to be voting for it remaining a standing committee.
Commissioner Harden, yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, Commissioner Watts, about, sorry, my apologies, Commissioner Wade, my apologies. Yeah, I do recall there used to be an Arts Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill. I'm not sure if that still happens. I haven't attended it in a while, but I know this will come later, but especially with CARE, I think we're in just a little bit of a challenging place and trying to figure out how to make that most effective. And maybe it is the right decision to not make any major decisions today, but possibly reframing that. And I guess I'm just wondering if we were to reframe the advocacy committee or a committee like CARE, would we need to actually disband the committee and then reintroduce it as something new, or are we able to make changes to a standing committee?
Yeah, so the standing committees, the enactment of them is just voted on by the full commission. I'd have to go back before my time on this commission to see if this full commission voted on CARE's charters and rules that they follow. To my knowledge, there wasn't anything set in stone or written regarding procedurally for the advocacy committee. It was just kind of, they had their plan and they made it a standing committee, and they were just supposed to continue with that plan of action unfortunately, most of those commissioners left the commission shortly after it became a standing committee. So
Okay, I'm not asking that to make a motion today. I'm just kind of.
yeah, I the answer is it depends. It depends if the understanding of those committees and at the formation were to distinctly change and just keep the same name. That would probably need to go to the commission. But internally, if those committees want to make tweaks to their strategy or assignments within that committee, that does not need to come back to the full commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Harding. Thank you, Commissioner Wade. I'm sorry, Commissioner Jester?
Yeah, other than streamlining systems and processes and committees, there's no deleterious effect for us to just sit on this and wait until a different time, right? There's nothing bad that's going to happen because of that, yeah. I think I'm with Commissioner Wade then, and just wait and see.
And yes, Commissioner Lefkowitz. And just so everybody knows, I've always been a big proponent of the advocacy piece. As Commissioner Harding just said, there was a day where we had Arts Day on the Hill, Arts Day at Council. And at the end of the day, it's my understanding that if we keep this as a standing committee, then it's up to me as chair to appoint people to this committee and to then it's up to me to define what that committee does within the committee. So the committee makes the scope, right? And I can appoint people to the advocacy committee. Currently, we don't have anyone on the advocacy committee. So I'm going to make a suggestion that we table this for now. We continue to keep the advocacy committee going. And Ashley and I can think about this and take in what you said, and move it forward. A little bit of back history. Commissioner Wilczek started the ad hoc committee with the direct intention of the 1% and asking, because at that point we were having a hard time getting commissioners to reach out to council people, to attend things at council, things like that. So the ad hoc committee was created to help kind of stabilize that piece. So I totally see the keeping this, and I thought about adding advocacy and community engagement together, because as chair, you're kind of tasked with reviewing all these things. And so I'm good with keeping it as it is, and we will work on filling that committee, and who will report up. Yes.
Now I have a thought.
Yes.
So first of all, I'm wondering if we can find and I'll try and find and send out the charter of that, to your point about what the mission of it kind of was. Maybe that would help to see what the formulation is. And then is the executive committee, just so we don't kick it and not think do we like it as it is? Do we want more discussion about changing it? Does that happen in the executive committee? Do we have another discussion about that, or do we need to put it on our agenda to just do some thinking and research on our own and talk about in the next meeting?
For a standing committee that we're continuing on, I think at this point I would just need to nominate people to the committee, and then that committee needs to meet and guide their own direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would just add briefly, as the newest commissioner, just listening, it sounds like there isn't a plan to operationalize it being everyone's job. And generally speaking, for priorities, when it's everyone's job, it's also no one's job. So I think just hearing the priority of advocacy, it makes sense in my mind that there would be a standing committee, and then to you all's point, a rediscussion around what the priorities are.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Cole. I appreciate that. And let's just move forward with that. Great idea. So, that's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so we'll push Ashley. Yes.
No, I was just going to say I can talk with staff as well, whose roles are most kind of lean toward this, and any specific things that I can help research as well, make any of those assignments to me, and we'll go from there. And maybe, I know we have a new commissioner who needs a committee assignment, so it could be a great one. And so, yeah, I look forward to continuing the discussion.
And I can send you, Ashley, and then you can share with the commission, since I can't share directly, everything I have on advocacy, the spreadsheet that we worked off of. And to my knowledge, there was no guiding mission for the advocacy committee, but I'd like to dig more into that. So thank you all. Okay, so we will push that and continue to keep the advocacy committee as a standing committee. All good? Second action item within executive committee. This has gone through executive committee, and there is a recommendation to approve the fiscal year 25 appeals process as recommended by the executive committee. You all have been included in every step of the appeal process, timely with Ashley guiding that process, and you all have the appeal process in front of you. So Ashley, do you want to speak to this at all?
Sure. So I think you either have a binder or...
Some have binders, some just have the packet as a whole.
Pass this around. So you received this proposed process via email, and it's also in your materials. And so what you're looking for is a one-pager that should be in the first section of your binder or toward the top of your packet that is titled, as such, Metro Arts FY25 appeals process. And so this was brought to the executive committee because what our guidelines state for the appeals process is that first paragraph of the italicized font. But we knew when reading that we needed to define a bit more process about how this would go. So what we brought to executive committee, which was recommended for the process, is laid out here. And so I'll just go over it briefly here. So I'm looking at the box that says action. And so after receiving an appeal, there were 3 appeals this cycle. Those were sent to you by the 15 days as instructed by the guidelines. And then the actions since then, interim executive director shall notify the appellant of the process and opportunity for appellants to provide additional information for their appeal. And so that was completed by April 11th. Appellants then had a 1-week period to optionally submit additional information to the interim executive director. That moved out to April 18th. And then the interim executive director shall provide an updated response to the appellants and the arts commissioners. The date for that was April 23rd. And so appellants and you all as commissioners received a packet of all that information that I went through. And then that brings us to today, April the 30th. And so the proposal as written is that commissioners with a conflict of interest related to the appellant would identify that conflict and recuse themselves from the deliberations and the vote. So that's the same procedure that we use when voting to authorize grants. Appellants may address the commission for a 3-minute time period. The interim executive director will then provide a recommendation to the commission, again for a 3-minute period, and then you as the commission would deliberate and vote to approve or to deny the appeal. And so this is a process that I am, a proposed process that I am bringing you, and as you heard me just say, some of these steps have been completed because of the nature of needing to complete a process to get to here today. And so we have filled in where the guidelines have left that process to be needed to be filled in. And so this was brought to the executive committee and recommended for approval. And so it is for you all to discuss there if our other executive committee members have anything to add.
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, we went through this on April 15th, executive committee, and our recommendation was to approve the fiscal year 25 appeals process. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read everything that has come over our way. And any other, Sean, or sorry, Commissioner Knight, Commissioner Lefkowitz, Commissioner Harden, do y'all have anything to add from executive committee in this decision?
I think we just all remarked on the clarity and specificity of the timeline and the schedule and how crucial that was and having that in place. Not only do we admire that, but we felt like it set a good step as we moved forward to sort of codify that.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the FY25 appeals process as recommended by the executive committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Jester. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Knight. Any discussion or questions? Commissioner Brown.
This is just approving the recommendation for the process. Okay, all right.
This is the recommendation of approving the process that y'all have laid out in front of you that we have followed up until today. And this includes the process for today. Okay, if there are no questions or more discussion, I'll take a motion. Yeah. Okay, so seconded by Commissioner Jester. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, motion passes. So that moves us into fiscal year 25 grant appeals. We have 3 grant appeals that we will hear today. We have all had the information sent to us prior to this. And this will begin with the International Black Film Festival operating grant. A brief, from what I understand, there will be 3 minutes for the appellant and 3 minutes for our executive director. And then we will vote upon that.
Ready? Okay. So if we can.
Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do we have anyone that has a conflict of interest with the International Black Film Festival?
That would be me.
Commissioner Wade?
Yes.
Okay. Vivian, if you could record that. God,
You don't need to, that's all I need to say?
that's all you need to say.
All right, awesome.
The disclosures, Vivian has them there, but the ones that we completed in March are for the year. So if of course, if you have relationships that change, you can always disclose more, but we do have here at the end of the table those ones from March.
Obviously, Commissioner Wade doesn't have to leave the room, but she will abstain from any and all discussion or input on this matter going forward until the vote.
Thank you, Jessa. Okay, Vivi?
The first one, so we're going to do International Black Film Festival. Do we have an appellant here to speak? If you can please come to the mic. Hold on before you start. All right, you have 3 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you're at your 1 minute mark. I'll say it as quietly as possible. And then the time, I'll say when time is up.
Okay.
Your time starts now.
Hey, my name is Ingrid Brown, and I'm the newly appointed president of the International Black Film Festival. We first applied, we're 20 years old. We first applied for our very first grant with Metro Arts in 2023. So we're still very new to the process. Our initial appeal was about the grant award amount, but after further discovery, we found that there were other issues. We felt those issues should have been addressed administratively first once we went through the full process, that they should have been addressed administratively because there were issues with the applications that we submitted. We submitted in January of 2024. Those applications are not visible in this submittable system as of today. We applied for the operating grant and we applied for the Thrive grant. They're still not visible or accessible. So we have issues with the due process of being able to access those grants during the new FY25 granting period. The fact that the grants were not visible was not discovered until we did the initial appeal. I submitted the appeal. I spoke with Ms. Ashley about the process. She let me know what her thoughts were on her decision was on the process. Thereafter, we discovered that I wasn't able to see what she was seeing. I said, I don't know where any of this is coming from in reference to the application. She then submitted a grant. She submitted a ticket to submittable IT. The IT department indicated that the grant was deleted. We did not discuss the fact that the Thrive grant was also not visible and is still not visible to date. The IT submittable in the email that Ms. Ashley submitted to IT Submittable, it indicated that grant was submitted. The grant that was submitted was withdrawn or deleted by the festival. And one of the Metro Arts Commission persons submitted transferred the grant. It was not me. So today, there are a lot of issues. My request is that we go administratively and figure out the issues first. My personal feeling is that we should not really even be in an appeals process, because today, if you go into my Submittable account, I don't have the ability to delete the application. I never had. The tabs that are available to me do not provide delete access. And furthermore, my request is to go through administratively to target the issues, have the opportunity to have due process as everyone else did, to figure out, to complete the application, make a decision on whether we want the operating grant or the Thrive grant. But you can't do that if it's not visible. So I also spoke with Ms.
Time.
Let's extend time by 2 minutes. Is that okay? And then Ashley will also have an extension of time by 2 minutes if needed.
Thank you. Upon submitting the application,
second,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, do I need to wait on you?
Go.
Okay. Upon submitting my application
Ma'am, 1 second, please.
I need to confer with legal.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The commission approved the process, which was 3 minutes. So we can take a vote to amend the process and extend the time for each party by an additional 2 minutes.
To do that, do we need to go back into our last vote on the appeal?
We can just take a vote to amend the time given to the appellant and the interim executive director to 5 minutes each.
For the appeal process, potentially, does this have to include the amount of time?
It was
Because it's in parentheses,
It
just
was
curious.
approved as the amount of time, the designated amount of time to each party, if you will.
So we'd have to go back in and do another.
Could we amend it to 3 minutes and then the discretion of the executive, or of the chair of the commission?
Yeah, you can make that amendment.
I'd like to make a motion that we amend our original motion to allow 3 minutes plus the discretion of the arts chair for both the appellant and the executive director as we work through the appeals process. Yeah, to grant additional time, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tessa, I'm looking at you do you have a question or a clarification? 'Cause I think I do, but it's more legal.
We didn't necessarily need to amend the motion. We were just making a motion to amend the process that was approved. But I think we got there.
Can we just change it to what we intended to do?
I think that was the intent of your motion, as you were motioning to amend.
The motion was to amend the
amend the
process. Yeah, not the motion, yeah.
Okay, so with that motion, so I understand it, we began with the 3 minutes and then up to chair's discretion for extra time. I would like it to be fair amongst everybody having an appeal, and for the appellant and for Executive Director Batchelder. So with that, let's add an additional 2 minutes and make it 5. It's sort of I know that everyone's cases are different. So let's add an extra 3 minutes for you, and that would be 6 minutes, and 6 minutes for Ashley. How about that? So you have 3 more minutes. Okay.
All right, thank you. 1 second. I'm waiting on them to turn your mic on. Okay. Time starts now.
Okay, so in January of 2024, when we submitted the Thrive grant and the operational grant, we reached out to Ms. Paulette Coleman via email. She let us know that there would be no decisions that would be made in reference to FY25, and that we should not, please be reminded, the Metro Arts funding is not guaranteed and cannot be relied upon for future program reference. So I did reach out in July of 2023, of July 2024 to check in on the process. But right after that, our festival happened, 5 days, 70 events. So, did not realize until we reached out to Submittable that neither application was visible. And then in addition to that, when IT Submittable said it has been deleted, she said that she restored it, but it's still not visible. And the Thrive grant is still not there, even after checking in with Submittable IT. So we've got a myriad of issues here that I feel very strongly that have to be reconciled before we even get into an appeal. I have documents, I have emails back and forth. So my request is to give us a fair and equitable chance to address the issues with the grant applications first, and then if there are distinctive issues around grant awards, that we address that as well. We also received a conciliation agreement. So that conciliation agreement was based off from our 2023 application. That conciliation agreement is, in addition to that, is twice as much as what we were awarded here for the same FY23 grant amount, our 990, right? So we received half of what we received then. But once again, before we even get into those issues, I'm not able to see what Ashley sees.
1 minute.
And so I let her know that. We reached out to Submittable. Once they restored it, they also indicated that they really don't have, that the grantee, the submitter, does not have the ability to delete the application. I do not have it in my tabs. It is not in the configuration. And I'm also missing messages about the receipt of the applications. Some of those messages and activity was restored when Submittable IT reached out and submitted it, and restored them. But that was in March. That was on March 21st of 2025. So a myriad of issues, not enough time to go through all of them. And I land my plane there.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, and thank you for all the work the festival does. I really appreciate it.
And now we will have Interim Director Ashley Batchelder.
You want to verify?
5 minutes, correct?
6, actually.
6 minutes.
If needed, Ashley, you have 6 minutes.
3 minutes, and then the chair can
Thank
decide
you.
whether additional
Yes,
time is
thank you.
given.
3 minutes, and then if you need more, chair's discretion.
Your time, ready? Your time starts now.
Oops, all right. So, of course, I want to say this part to you, and I might turn a few ways. I want to start by saying that I, fully acknowledge and intimately aware with, how confusing and frustrating the process has been for applicants as Metro Arts has navigated through our various challenges over the last year. And so I don't underestimate how confusing and frustrating this has been. But given that, unfortunately, my recommendation to the commission is still for the appeal to be denied for the following reasons. And so the appeal, when I received it, stated that the incorrect revenue amount was used to determine the grant, which is how it determines the grant amount that organizations are awarded and how that calculation works. And so I'm just going to kind of go through the process of what that means. So when applications reopened on January 24th, 2025, the guidelines included the following. Organization budget size and most recently completed fiscal year revenues are considered when determining the appropriate grant category for each applicant. Please note that Metro Arts is using data from the original applications submitted by January 29, 2024. That's a quote. So that's on page 5 of the guidelines. And additionally, on page 6, the guidelines state that original applications will be retained and that updates are only necessary if your organization has undergone significant changes, such as a different area of focus. And so the applications had been sitting dormant for about a year when they reopened in January of 2025. To avoid data loss, Metro Arts staff members downloaded all the applications on January 21st, 2025, which was 4 days before Submittable reopened. So those files are saved on our department SharePoint, that's our shared drive, and I've included a copy of the original application in your packet. The application from that original deadline is dated January 29, 2024, which was what that original deadline was. And so on the first page, if you go to the application that has that January 29, 2024 date on it, it shows that a blank fill line on the question that prompts users to upload the most recently completed 990, which indicates that a 990 was not updated. So on my page, I just circled that. It's not circled on yours, but you have it in your packet. And then on the second page of that original application, it shows the self-reported amount of $21,000 when answering the question, most recently completed fiscal year revenues. So that's on the second page there.
Time.
I would like to request more time.
Yes, absolutely. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Batchelder.
Time starts now.
And so that information that I just went through is what was used to determine the award size. Metro Arts used this data in the fall of 2024 when determining the funding formula, and the final award sizes were based on that information as submitted in that original application. Because as the guidelines stated, organizations were not to update the revenue information, and the work to determine those award sizes had begun before Submittable reopened. And so after the update period was closed for Submittable, there was a 990 that was uploaded to the application, and there are a couple of dates on it, including April of 2024 and February of 2025. And so given that this 990 was not included in the original application, it is Metro Arts' interpretation that the 990 was uploaded after the fact of the original application deadline in January 2024, and that it would actually be what applies to the next grant cycle, but not the grant cycle in question. And so I'm not meaning to cast doubt or disbelief on any individuals or organizations. And again, I know how confusing it has been in the last year. And I acknowledge the technical difficulties that were experienced with Submittable, but the outcome would have been the same had those technical difficulties not occurred. And so the appellant requested specific information like the Submittable activity log, which I have included in your packets. And ultimately, Metro Arts is not responsible for Submittable technical difficulties, but we are always able to help troubleshoot and connect applicants to the support team, which is also shown in your application that we did. And so unfortunately, my recommendation is still to deny the appeal request of the operating grant and to maintain the original or the award amount of $5,211.58. And I'll just say that we didn't have a technical fix period available after Submittable closed, and we do know that other applicants also reached out that had technical issues, and that was the cause for their denial. And so I just want to, I think that's worth mentioning as well, that I know other applicants might also have been denied for technical reasons, and that's just how it went with the deadline. That was the deadline that we had this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim Director Batchelder. At this point, I can take a motion. We have the recommendation that was just made by Director Batchelder. So therefore, I can entertain a motion that can then enter into discussion and questions, but discussion and questions amongst the commission, not of the appellant themselves. Does that make sense? Is that correct, Tessa? Okay. Can I have the next slide, please? So the recommendation, I'm sorry, could you go back one? The recommendation from Director Batchelder and the Metro Arts staff is to deny the appeal request for the operating grant for the International Black Film Festival. Next slide, please.
There's no motion slide, just that's the staff recommendation.
Okay. So don't I need a motion for discussion?
So I think you guys can discuss amongst yourself.
Before we make a move, before we make a motion?
Yeah, because I think the discussion will guide the motion that's to be made.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so let's open it up for questions and discussion.
Can I make sure I'm understanding this correctly? So documentation was submitted originally, it sat for a while, and then we asked for updates, but not updates to the 990 form. And our grant amount was based on all that information that was uploaded initially. There was a lot of IT issue, valid, frustrating IT issues. New 990 information was uploaded, and we awarded based off original information, and the appellant is asking for an award based off new information when that's not what we had asked for or wanted. Is that correct? Okay.
So on this end, Ashley, as interim director, Batchelder makes the recommendation. We cannot pose questions to Director Batchelder either.
Yeah,
If I'm understanding your question correctly, Tessa, is this something that I need to lean to you on? Or, I mean, I can speak to what my understanding is, or to the chair of our grants committee.
Yeah, I mean, this part of the procedure was one that Ashley and I went back and forth on when we were developing it. We felt that allowing questions to each party would just end up delaying this process a lot. Ideally, everyone in this room, all decision makers, heard the same information and should discuss how you understand the information and make your decision based on that.
Then I guess my question is to the rest of the commissioners in the room, did you hear things the same way I just explained them? That the grant amount was based on the initial information and that everything was just sort of IT issues, unfortunately?
Yes, that's what I heard, and that the IT issues did not have an effect on the decision.
But that even with the IT issues, that the outcome would have been the same.
And to be clear, when Director Batchelder said that other organizations had been denied for technical reasons, she wasn't talking about technical difficulties with submittable. She was talking about the fact that the information was provided or not provided or uploaded later or different things like that. And so I just want to be clear about that, or what the last thing that she said. And that does, I think what you said aligns with my understanding of what happened.
I'll just add what I heard as well was that there wasn't an opportunity to see what was submitted because of lack of technical operations with the platform, which my understanding is Metro Arts chosen platform, to which case the appellant wasn't able to review what was submitted. So if you can't see it, you can't change it. And so my understanding of the request wasn't even necessarily about the operating grant, but it was about being able to first resolve the technical issues with even being able to see what was submitted, which is slightly different than the recommendation. And I think leans more on the what was stated with regards to the technical difficulties being substantial in impacting the process and decision.
When, Tessa, I wonder if you can clarify this in terms of, to your point, Commissioner, thinking about what organizations were able to see, like, in the process when things reopened. So there was a period of time, ostensibly, when it had been so long, right, since people had submitted, that things were open again for people to make changes. And what could they see or not see at that point? And was this different from?
Yeah, I truthfully can't speak to the technicality of the application. I do know that the applicants were told to only update specific things on their application. And I do know that art staff went in and downloaded all the applications before they were reopened, in case there were questions on what, from an applicant, on what was on that original application. Whether or not the applicant themselves could see that original application, I don't know. And just to be clear, if the commission feels like they need to ask questions to the staff to make a decision, again, we can revise the process that was approved to open that up procedurally. So.
We could do that. Just looking at, I'm sure we've all read the written responses between Ms. Brown and Ms. Batchelder. So regardless of the submittable challenges, which I will admit there are many, as a user and on the end, there are many. But looking at the IRS 990, it seems that in the original application submitted on January 29th, 2024, and I believe that was submitted by Hazel Joyner Smith, that application actually did not have a 990 in it, with it, in the application. I know, Ashley, you can't answer. And then when reviewing it, there was no 990 uploaded with the original January 29th, 24 application. So the question of please upload your organization's most recently completed 990, that is, we were using that to generate the awards, and that was not there, it seems. Now, if we need to have more questions of staff, we can go back through and amend the beginning appeal process that we began with. But this is the opportunity for more questions. Commissioner Brown.
Yes. Is your statement that we are denying because the 990 was not uploaded? Is that our rationale for denying this application?
It's an appeal. If I'm understanding correctly, they were awarded money,
right,
a grant, and I don't know if that grant's been taken or not, but they were awarded a grant. It just wasn't the amount that they're asking for now.
Gotcha.
Yes, the appeal is on the award amount.
Right, not the denial of them as a grantee.
Correct.
Right. Yes. Okay.
So it sounds like the question isn't was a 990 uploaded because there was a grant amount awarded, but rather, I guess what I'm taking away from the conversation is if there was an inability to make updates to the application based on the platform, then that would have impacted the grantee's ability to make edits to their application, in which case the award amount would have increased. So to me, it sounds like we're going back to the technical difficulties, not necessarily the timeline of submission.
Exactly, because the amount, right, would have changed if she would have had the 990 included.
I guess I would wonder, would it have changed? I mean, we're still in the same fiscal year, even though the period is shorter. So would that have, like, and I think a lot of this is really, important for us moving forward in the next cycle, but it sounds like, would that have applied to next year's cycle if they were to upload, and I'm asking this question just in general, even if they were to upload and update it, would that be valid for this fiscal year, even though the cycle is much shorter than it would have been? Is that were we using the right 990 originally?
So for fiscal year 24, the 990 of fiscal year 23 would be used. For fiscal year 25, the 990 of fiscal year 24 would be used. So, right? Is that correct? All right. I can't ask you.
And according to Ms. Batchelder's statements, the 990 was something that was not allowed to be updated as I understood it. Like, so it wouldn't matter. It was not a part of any application that was allowed to be updated.
It doesn't sound like any changes that could have been made if there hadn't been IT details or problems would have made a difference in the grant amount. Is what it sounds like.
Yes, I think that's what I am thinking to your point about like what could have been changed, that what that information on that 990 could not have been changed, right? That was the 990 that was submitted, that it was, the decision was made on, and that it was not eligible to be amended or changed, because not every, to be clear, like not every thing was up for, we didn't allow people to amend like their program things or, you know, different things. It was only kind of a major shift, right, in focus. So I think that is the idea, is that the new 990 would not have been eligible, and the grant would have been made the same, would have been made using that information. I do like thinking about being able to view the application. And I've read this like 5 times and I can go back and look again, but thinking about could people request a copy of it? Was it a unique situation for this organization that they could not view their application? I don't know that. But I feel like the communication yeah.
I have a confusing question, and maybe one of you can clarify it for me. If there was no 990 in the original application, what was the award amount based on to begin with?
Yeah, that's a great question, because what I'm reading from the email, and I don't know what page is on the binder, but it's the email from Director Batchelder to Ms. Brown. The question, I guess what was just summarized as an issue with the 990 doesn't sound like that was actually the issue. It looks like, and I'm on page 2 of the email under IRS 990, it looks like the recommendation was made based on a question about essentially the validity of the 990. And that's my summarization of what I'm reading here about the tax preparer's signed date of the 990 and the actual deadline submission date of the 990. So it sounds like the 990 could have been submitted, so that's not exactly accurate in terms of our assessment that the 990 couldn't be edited, but rather the question is about whether or not the updated 990 was actually valid based on dates of the document.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yes, and that's on page 25 of your packet too, if you're looking at it. Thank you for that. I was looking for that page. So that's on page 25, and there's a paragraph, as Commissioner Cole said, IRS 990.
I could restate this, well, 2 things. Summary was the International Black Film Festival was awarded an operating grant for $5,211.58. The award size was calculated based on a revenue of $21,000. The appellant has appealed the award amount, believing the calculation should have been based on a revenue of $70,237. Then when I'm flipping over here, the applications that were opened in December of 2023. The application was submitted on January 29th of 2024. The 990 was actually uploaded in 2025. There was no 990 uploaded with the original January 29th, 2024 application. And so without that 990 in the original application, that's where we were going on their budget numbers.
That's correct.
Is that right? I'm not
Yes.
on grant, so I just want to make sure.
So, and thank you for your patience as we read through this. But thinking about the signed document, to your point, was after that January 29th, 2024 deadline. And that that is consistent with other denials that we made in terms of thinking about the timeline. And so that is exactly it. That the signed date of the 990 submitted was after the January 29th, 2024 deadline.
And there was a grant awarded. So the difference in this case and what I'm hearing from other denials is that in other cases, there was no grant awarded at all based on a missed deadline. But in this case, there was a grant awarded. So the question becomes, again, I'm synthesizing, was the update to the application done in whatever the time frame was? And then was there an opportunity to actually make the update, I guess, based on whatever the technical issues were, which is the causing question about the actual grant amount, seeing as this organization actually received a grant?
Yes. And what could be, yes. Yes.
Other questions or thoughts?
I want people to feel very comfortable
I do too.
with this. And so I am very open also to opening it back for questions, to anyone. I know this is, but it's important that we get the story right. And I appreciate the clarity of the materials that the appellant and that Director Batchelder provided. But it's just helpful to talk things through as well. So I am open to amending to if we feel like we have more questions, because I really do want this to be clear.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to make a motion that we amend the process to allow staff to respond to questions related to the appeal, staff and appellant to respond to questions related to the appeal during the commission discussion phase.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. I'm not clear on the motion. So it's staff and appellant to respond to questions.
Commissioners might have.
So do we need to go back in and do anything with the actual appeal the appeal process?
The motion is just to amend the appeal process that you previously approved. So you're just revising the appeal process because this is our first time doing it. So
That's right.
We're
Yep.
learning as we go.
Live and learn. Okay, sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Who was the second on that motion, please?
I think it was
Commissioner
me.
Jester.
Jester, thank you.
And is there one abstention? Commissioner White?
I have to abstain from this vote.
No, she's correct.
Okay, great. So you're good. Okay, so we're all 10. Okay, great. Okay.
Correct.
And to clarify, I can't even ask a question in this appeal.
No, ma'am. You cannot ask a question.
Thank you. Okay, then let's open it up for questions.
Could someone on the staff just kind of walk through like context around, because I've read several times in the emails, like, yeah, we know the technical difficulties in the process and we're working on it. So it sounds like there have been some gaps. So just a high level overview of what those have been.
Yeah, so we're talking about original application deadline, January 29, 2024. So the application was submitted for an operating and a Thrive one. A policy was later passed that you can only have one application. So the Thrive one, it shows withdrawn. So we're just talking about the operating one right now. So because of challenges of the last year, that those applications sat effectively dormant for a year as we work through things internally here. And so the staff downloaded all the application information in the fall of 2024. And so at that time, this body, the commission, was discussing what funding formulas and grant policies would be picked up to apply to those applications that had been submitted several months earlier. And so the application information was downloaded at that time. That's when different spreadsheets were being developed. That's what I refer to in my packet of the original application submitted January 29, 2024. And so the award amounts were calculated for the first time, drafted in fall of 2024, based on the self-reported number of $21,000 for most recently completed fiscal year revenues. That's how we calculate our grant amounts. So that happened in the fall of 2024 based on the application that had been submitted. Fast forward to January, that's when applications reopened so that changes could be made. Mostly it was Thrive applications that were making a lot of changes because of the nature of those grants. So for operating ones, the guidelines instructed applicants to not update the revenue information because the revenues as submitted on the original application was what was being used and were already being worked on by staff. That's when you were seeing those mock funding formulas at the time. And so applications reopened, and the appellant, as I understand it, wanted to make some updates to their application. And so this is when some of the technical difficulties began. At that time, the application was, I believe, as I understand it, was getting some technical assistance from staff, and a request was made to transfer the application to another submitter. So that's the person doing the entry. So that transfer was made, and then some other changes were made in the application to answer more questions, which launched a new application for them. And that was because the appellant, as I understand it, wanted to provide additional information, although it was not required, and although the guidelines stated that we would be retaining the original information in the packet. And so that's when some of the technical difficulties began that have been described. And that is, why I kind of ended with, even if the technical difficulties had not occurred, the result would have been the same because that information was downloaded in the previous fall and had been working on, and that's what was submitted with the application. That self-reported $21,000. That's what was used to determine those grant amounts.
So a couple follow-ups. My first one is you mentioned the updates in the fall of 2024, updates to the process. I guess what were the updates to the process? And if there were changes to the process, was that communicated to applicants before or after the download of the applications?
It's kind of a big question because things changed a lot over the last year. And so applicants were essentially told things are on pause until you're told otherwise. And so the unpause kind of happened in January as this body formalized policies, the council approved it, and Submittable reopened, and then things have been moving since then.
So no specific communication to applicants around what the changes were to the process?
So once changes were defined and set into policy by this body, those changes were communicated via Submittable and via direct email. to people who had pending applications. But the policy wasn't determined and finalized until January of this year.
I see. So to those who were pending per the timing of the changes, but no impact on those who had already applied who were in waiting for a year. Is that correct?
It was only those who were waiting for the year that were eligible. So we were not accepting new applications at that time because we were just trying to catch up on what we had fallen behind on.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, Commissioner Cole, is that all of these applications were submitted in January 24. We did not take any new applications on. So that's where all these are coming from. So that, yeah, if that helps.
What, can
And
I?
everyone was notified about policy.
And every operating grant awarded based on the number that was submitted in January 2024? Were there any exceptions to that?
No. And no, it was based on the information that we downloaded in the fall of 2024 when funding formulas were being deliberated among you all.
And that was communicated to all applicants that were in the queue at the time, correct? That their financial number determined by their 990 or self-reported, that would be the January 24 application. And so that's what all these determinations were made on, was that financial number. Is that correct?
Yeah, the guidelines stated to not update the revenue.
So, Commissioner Cole, in the guidelines that we adopted, it was communicated by the commission to the public, to the applicants, that that would be the figure that they were working off of, was their 24 number, not anything uploaded after January of 25. If that makes sense.
And the
I know
applicant,
it's confusing.
sorry, and the applicant is not saying that there were technical difficulties with this first submission, correct? With the January 2024 submission, January 29th. That is not their claim. Or I can ask that to her. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to be very, very, very direct, if you guys don't mind. I do not believe that the issues are technical. I think they're configuration issues. I am missing messages and activity in reference to actions that were taken insubmittable. But those things are changed through configuration. You can turn off messages, you can turn them on, you can remove applications, and you can delete applications. So my application that I submitted, I submitted the application in January 29th of 2024. I do not have access to that application to date. I don't know why the 990 isn't there. So if there's technical issues, I call that into question as well. If we're saying that it's submittable IT, that the submittable platform is generating errors, I can't tell you why the 990 is not present. But if we're saying all of these things that I'm presenting are due to issues with the platform, which I absolutely disagree. I'm a tech architect. I've been in tech for 20 years. I've done large implementations for governments around the world. I've also spoken with Submittable, and I have downloaded some of the features and the functionality. I understand it more. I guide developers. So I would submit that these issues are not due to technical issues, that they are due to configuration and changes made by someone that has permissions to do so. I want that to be taken very, very seriously. Today, if you go into my account, I do not have access to the Thrive grant or the operating grant. I was not given an opportunity to decide on which grant I wanted to choose because it wasn't there. I would further submit that the reason I started creating new applications is because the original applications were not present. I'm a fiscal agent for Metro Arts Commission. amazing people that we're guiding. They let me see what they had available to them when the new granting process was open. I did not have that opportunity. It's still not there to this day. If you go into my account right now, even when the IT representative from Submittable said that she restored it, if you click on it, it takes you back to the February 16th application that I submitted. It still doesn't come up. The application did lie dormant for 12 months, but once again, I shared that when I reached out to the former executive director, Ms. Paulette Coleman, on July 22nd of 2024. She said that the conciliation agreements this conciliation process must be addressed first, and to not expect any progress or movement on FY 2025. We have a film festival, we moved on. We immediately had to seek out other sources of funding. So no, we didn't go back in there after she told us that. I was like, wow. Understand a lot of back and forth, a lot of things to consider, the hard work that you guys have done, trying to straighten out the process. We had never really applied for the grant in 20 years since we've been in existence. So we moved on. So once again, the FY, I feel as if we have not had the opportunity to say, hey, we want the operating grant or the Thrive grant. It wasn't visible. It still isn't visible today, even after Ashley reached out. Ashley sent the initial email to IT. The application was transferred from Hazel's account to my account, but I didn't transfer it, so the issue didn't come there. Sydney transferred it. We have issues all across the board. And that's why I let Ashley know that I can't, when we were on the phone call discussing my initial appeal, this is how the issue branched out. The issue branched out from my initial concern about the award amount to realizing that we didn't have access to the original application. That was on a phone call that I had with Miss Ashley. After that phone call, with Miss Ashley, she sent an email to Submittable IT. She said the submitter submitted the application. She said the submitter, which was myself, in the email, she said that I transferred the application, which probably triggered an issue. It's in the email, in your packet. I didn't transfer the email. I didn't transfer that application. Sydney did. Thereafter, once the IT Submittable representative, the Submittable IT person said, it looks like your applications have been deleted. I said, wow, who? When? We can't retrieve that information. So then I gave time. I was expecting a response from Ashley. No disrespect to you, my friend. We're just going through this. I expected a response from her to say, wow, your applications have been deleted. Let's look further into that. I did not get that. I stepped in and sent another email on March 24th saying, hey, what are your thoughts on what IT Submittable said about the grants not being available? She responded 3 days later on March 27th, indicating that Metro Legal and her were not able to answer that question and that she would get back to me with the grants process. No further investigation on why the grants were not visible. I have not had the opportunity, the fair and equitable opportunity. We're talking about equity, and all of these beautiful documents you've had. In the process, I have not had that opportunity. I don't know where the 990 is. But once again, if we're talking about issues with Submittable, then it's plausible that that was deleted as well. We don't know because we haven't done the work on the administrative side to take a look at behind the scenes. Look at the audit, it's there. You can't take anything out of a platform. You can audit every single line. Tech head, that's my tech head. But I've also confirmed that was submittable. You can run custom reports. You can run custom APIs. All of those things. It is an open platform. I could create an API and submit it to Submittable, and they will accept it.
Ms. Brown. Thank you. May I ask you a question just real quick? Because since you are so familiar with the tech pieces, I'm just looking through the binder.
Yes.
And so we can kind of get
I know
a
we need to
handle
move on. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I just want to make sure everyone gets their appeal done today and all that.
Yes.
So it looks like on March 21st, that an email was sent to you that it looks like the application was deleted. This is from Submittable,
Yes.
Jess Waltz. I've since restored it to your account. Can you log in using your Gmail address? I'm not going to make that public. And let me know if you have access to the submission link below. Were you able to get into that submission?
I did click on the link, but what it does is it has January 29th, 2024, the date at the top on the Forms tab. But when you click into the application, it's the one I submitted on February 16th.
That would be your updated.
Yeah, that's the new one. So to be honest with you, I went into a frenzy of trying to create the application because the original submission was not there. So during my process of getting into the granting period, the FY25 granting period, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to create a new one. So that's what I did. And so I'm trying to figure it out because if I had the original application there, I would have never went down that road.
Understood. Thank you. Ashley, do you have, you want to, thank you so much. That clears up.
So I think what happened on the why you're seeing a new application is because this is getting a little into the
crazy.
weeds. But if you recall, applicants had the option to use last year's score and if you pick that, you don't essentially answer all the questions again. You're just using last year's score. Or you can say, no, I want to have a new panel. If you want a new panel, that means you have to answer 5 through 7 more questions. And so the applicant selected, I want a new panel after the original application was submitted. No, I don't want a new panel. So upon pressing that, I would like a new panel, our understanding is that is what launched a new application because it became a fundamentally different application because the original application did not have those 5 questions to answer. And so that is why the applicant is seeing the new application. That's why the materials that she has submitted are much longer than the ones that I submitted to you with the original application. And so...
but the original is still not there.
Correct, because it was requested to essentially, it branched into the new information. And so, but again, the guidelines instructed no changes unless, a new organizational focus, no changes to the revenue. And because those changes were requested, the new application came up. But again, we were using the information submitted that we were already, I wasn't here at the time, but that was being worked on in the fall with those numbers as submitted at the time.
Other questions for Ms. Brown or for Executive Director Batchelder or any other comments?
Can I make one more final comment, please? Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. Additionally, I would like to say that the new application that I submitted, reason why I went back into the questions is because I'm the new president. So in the guidelines, it talks about if you've had structural changes, if you've had, changes in programming, that you should update that, right? So that's why I didn't have the original application. But that's why I went back and said, oh, I'm the president now. That's structural. So that's why I opened up a new application. That stuff was not represented, and I wanted consistency and alignment of information. In addition to that, the application also indicated that we were declined for an operational grant. Unbeknownst to us, we received a grant for $12,600 for the same $21,000.
Yeah,
And
the conciliation payments benefited from a much larger grant budget than we have right now. So that's the case for every organization received much larger grants at the time.
Okay, so, but my point on that is that we received the application. When I did the application, we were declined with a score of 81 on that original grant. Another reason why I went back in and made changes, I said, wow, we were declined at 81 on the operations grants. I have to do better. So I went back in, made the structure, the changes based on structure, made the changes based on new programming because a year has gone by at this point. But I couldn't update the original application because it wasn't there. I created a new one. And to date, once again, it forms a loop. If you click on FY 2025, on the date, it takes you to that FY16 grant application that I created, but it's still not restored. You still can't see it. The only person that has a copy of the original application is Ashley. I don't have a copy of it. I can't reference what she was looking at. I can't go back in and say, oh, these are the changes that need to be made. I don't have a copy of it. I did not download it because I thought, submittable would be there for us to review at the appropriate time.
Can I ask a question, Commissioner or Chair West?
Yes.
Just a clarifying question. So I do understand there's been a tremendous amount of really frustrating IT issues, but fundamentally to all of this, is it fair to say that there was never supposed to be an opportunity to change the amount of revenue from the first application?
That is correct.
Okay.
I submitted my FY 2023 990 in January of 2024.
Okay, so
it's not visible, but I don't know why that's not visible.
thank you, Ms. Brown. I'm sorry to have to
That's fine.
close this down, but this is not the process that we all voted on. And so it is now 1:55, and we have this vote, 2 other appeals to hear, and some really important public art pieces to hear. Now, that is not I just want to get clear on where we are because this was not the process. So trying to pull this back in. Legal, can you advise on, because we just sort of,
So
we went away from process and now I feel like we're in a gray area.
You voted to allow additional time for initial comments from the appellant and the executive director. You also voted for questions. I would just advise that if there's not a question posed by a commissioner, there should be no further commentary from either party going forward. And any commentary in response to the question needs to stay on point to the question.
Thank you. Thank you for guiding me through that. In that case, I'd like to take a motion on this appeal, please. Next slide, please. No, there's not? Okay. So we need a motion.
I don't feel comfortable making a motion on it yet. I'm curious what the possibility of taking this one application, having it be completely resubmitted from scratch so that everyone can see it, what that would entail. Yes. I'm not convinced that it would change anything, but I absolutely want to make sure that the information that you are seeing and the applicant are seeing is identical. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to proceed with that.
Commissioner Yuan.
I think if we have downloaded copies, while she can't see it unsubmittable, it can be seen, it can be viewed. So allowing her to resubmit and start over, but not allowing anyone else or the other two that are here is an unfair process across the board for everyone who's applied. So that we do have a downloaded original application with everything that was submitted. And unfortunately, there were issues where she cannot see it, but she can. We can give it to her to see if there seems to be a reason that we need to do that. But I'm feeling like for this vote, we've gone around and around and around. And the issue is what she submitted, which she's saying she can't see, and that's fair, but it's there, and it's what we based our grants funding off of. So that we started with a process and we continued with the process. And while we might need to look at submittable or a different platform or allow for technical difficulties within the grant process to be handled a certain way, at this point in time, it seems like we need to make a decision about this.
Can we see the first application? Do we have a copy of that we can lay our hands on?
It's the one that is
It's in here,
your
yeah.
packet. And it's not in your packet, but it was, yeah. And it was sent to, I sent it to Ms. Brown after our original phone call. And so the technical assistance that was requested of us, whether it was Sydney several months ago, she provided the assistance that was requested of her to do with the application transfers and guidance through that. And the application that I provided, I don't have the date in front of me, but in March also showed the export, and that's when it was. That's not what I see, right? And so that was provided at that time.
I just wanted to add briefly, I think my understanding of an appeals process assumes that there's a break from whatever the original decision was. And so in my mind, I don't see it as being inequitable or we wouldn't have an appeals process. I think given questions around what was available to be seen on both parties, coupled with the change in the process over the course of the year, and clarification around what that was to applicants, and both parties saying that, yes, something was awry with the technical aspect of this process, which in this particular case does play a role in what was submitted and the accuracy of the application. I'm in alignment with Commissioner Knight. I think perhaps we table this, or I don't know what the process is, but it seems to me that there might be some additional conversation to come to a decision. I guess one quick question that I have just from a budget standpoint, would there even be an opportunity to make adjustments to the grant awarded amount? What is the process for that, I guess?
So I think we would need to develop our process if we were to table this for now, but I will say, there's 2 months left in the fiscal year, and so just being mindful of that. This body is not going to meet again until a month from now, and the contracts do take at least several days to move through, and so I'm just mindful of the time that is left, and ask you all to consider that as well as you're deciding how to move forward here with the limited time that's left in this fiscal year.
I would also submit to this commission that the question before you for appeal is the grant amount. What is the financial revenue that the grant amount should be based on? And so the decision for the commission is whether the grant amount was correct based on the financial revenue that this commission voted on in March, or was that financial revenue information incorrect, and therefore it's an incorrect grant amount? That is the appeal at issue.
So to me, it sounds like it sounds like the grant amount based on the financial information is correct. What it sounds like is we can all agree upon is that the process of communication and the transparency of that was not correct. And I would understand why there would be frustration and disappointment in the process. But I think technically what we're voting on, it sounds like, if I'm correct, that it's not going to change even if we were to reopen the submission and get the information. So I definitely understand. I hear you, and I understand your concerns and your frustration that you don't understand and you're not able to physically see it. And I mean, it looks like, from what I'm seeing, it does look like there is a 990 form attached to the application, and I realize that you cannot see that, and that's the issue. I just worry that if we do continue, like Ashley says, it's delaying the funds that you will receive. And yeah, so I feel like we probably do need to, continue with the denial of the appeal, but make a serious note that this can't happen again. And we do need to take more time to get that transparency to you. But that's just my thoughts.
Yes, to look at the 24 application, there was not a 990 uploaded, so it's self-reporting on 20. That's where we came with the 21,000. So I agree with Commissioner Harden. We have a lot of changes that need to be made, and I'm so incredibly sorry. And at the same time, going off of the actual funding amount, that's what we are left with deciding today, is the amount and if it was based appropriately or not. Okay, at this point, we need to move forward with a vote.
I move we deny the appeal request for the operating grant from the International Black Film Festival.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, let's roll call this. Please.
West,
Yes.
Harden,
Yes.
Lefkowitz,
Yes.
Brown,
No.
Cole,
No.
Jester,
Yes.
Khalil,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Any abstaining?
Any abstentions? Commissioner Wade?
She doesn't.
No.
The motion passes. And I'd like to say personally, I encourage you to please apply for next year, and that this contract will roll out as fast as possible for your operating grant now. And feel free to reach out to us for more questions. And thank you for all your time. Commissioner Yu, I know you got to take off. I think I'm seeing a bathroom break. And we still have 2 appeals and public art to go. So I think we're losing quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8, yes.
Do we have quorum if one person leaves? Yeah.
Yeah, we have quorum if one person leaves. Huh? 8 is quorum, yeah, you're okay. No, you're good, I think you're good.
We've paused because quorum is lacking at this moment for anybody who's wondering what we're doing. Somebody, oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Carry on.
So we can move. May I ask what everyone's timeline is like so we know if we need to make it? I'd like to, especially since we have our guests here with the appeals, I'd like to go ahead and get this moving. And does anybody have a hard out in the next 30 or so minutes?
I can stay.
You
No.
do?
No.
You do?
No, I definitely did.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah,
You
I
do.
definitely did.
Okay, so we will be dropping quorum once Commissioner Brown leaves. So,
Unless we're finished in 30 minutes.
Evan-
Say you leaving now.
15.
15.
so, I mean, you need to
I
go in
believe
15.
Commissioner Khalil is just on a bathroom break. Even if Commissioner Brown needs to leave,
Then
we
we're
will
good.
still be at 8.
So let's move into the next appeal, Dominique's Dominance. It's a Thrive grant. And I welcome you all and thank you for all the time you're spending here today with us. And come on up. You have 3 minutes to begin. And Vivian will.
1 second. Okay. Jesus. All right, you have 3 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you're at your 1 minute mark. Your time starts now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We truly value the importance of this grant and are dedicated to creating a meaningful and lasting impact. Our objective with this funding was to enhance the experience for our audience. To accomplish this, we brought on board a set designer with over 30 years of experience, including work on the TV show Saturday Night Live, along with talented actors from New York and Atlanta, and a director from New York. We executed detailed planning for this project, guided by our consistent positive experiences with Metro Arts in the past. We were surprised to learn that funding was not provided this time, as we had anticipated receiving the promised support. Despite this setback, we proceeded with the show's plural, resulting in a significant loss. It is challenging for us to absorb the impact of not receiving funding due to a technicality of the date being incorrect. It was last year's date, and we did not change it to, at least it doesn't, the system did not pick it up that we changed it to March of this year. Especially given our longstanding partnership with Metro Arts, we hope to find a way to address the situation constructively moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And it's not the date of the event. It's the date of the grant process. So the
1
date
minute.
that we put in that the event would happen, it did happen. It happened to happen at the same time you were talking to us. Same time we didn't get approved for the grant or whatever, that's the same time the event is going on, which is right in between the time that we're supposed to have it. It's just not on, when we put it in the computer, it didn't show that. And so that's why we're here.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Interim Director Batchelder.
Again, I'll pivot a little bit. Thank you, of course, for being here. And again, the confusion, I deeply feel it and know it myself, and all the changes this year. And thank you for being in communication with me the last several days and couple weeks about this as well. And so,
Upstairs now.
the situation and the recommendation for the appeal or for the denial for this one is, as the appellant said, the application had been, it came to Metro Arts after the reopen period had closed with the July of 2024 to the March of 2025 timeline. And so that was interpreted as, the timeline was not adjusted to be within the grant contract period from the January to June period. And so that was the reason for the technical denial, which was how all of applications were evaluated, looking at activities, proposed activities in that time period only. And I would just add the response that you have in your packet from me for this one further points out that had the technical denial not occurred, this application would have been flagged regardless for the organization being both in Thrive and the operating support categories. And so you as the commission adopted a policy this year that is not permissible. And so it would have been identified then as not being eligible for both had it not been denied previously in the technical review period. And again, that is for consistency across the review from other applicants as well this year.
Thank you, Ashley. I will now ask if the commission has questions of Director Batchelder or the appellant. Yeah. Discussion. Do I need to make any motions?
Was the question was about the policy of awarding, being eligible for both, and that was that. I believe I'm trying to give voice to this question.
Sydney was telling me you could apply for both under certain circumstances if the person was fiscally sponsored.
Okay, so the way I'm understanding your question is that you understood that you could apply for an operating grant and a Thrive grant.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
could apply for a Thrive grant if you had a fiscal sponsor and get both pots of funding or
Yes, yeah, if it was
perspective.
if it was fiscally sponsored, because the difference between the two, it's 3 times as much. So we would have just stayed with the Thrive grant.
Yeah,
But
this
if you
commission, the policy was adopted that it was one or the other. It was.
When did you adopt it? That
Can somebody
policy?
tell me when that was adopted off the top of your head? It would have been in October, I believe.
Finalized in January with the guidelines.
There you go. That's where you messed up at, because it's in January. This show is February. We start this show really in November. This process starts in November. You can't have a play in February and you starting in February or even January.
Yeah, I know that the shortened timeline made a lot of the projects just really challenging and not because of the challenges on our end, right? And I think you're giving an example of how, y'all were impacted by the delays.
Early in this process in order to bring y'all the best show that you've ever seen. And it was. We had 3 stages in one. It was magnificent. Y'all should have been. Anyway, but so that's what it is, you know what I mean? Because, something is better than nothing, obviously, but if we can do 2, that's good because we're pushing the envelope of having fabulous, fabulous stages. And this young man designed 3 stages in one that you can change out in 30 minutes. It's really interesting. So we had 3 plays going on at one time, 2 at one time, but one play had 2 stages. But anyway, that's too much. Anyway, I just want to let you know. So thank you all for your time.
I think we've learned a lot through this process. I was reading through some of the engagement notes that Ashley provided us from some of the sessions from the past few weeks, and this challenge between Thrive and operating grants is really challenging for our grantees, and somehow they're not able to really get clear information on what's best for them. And I think I know we can't solve it maybe through these appeals right now, but if anything, it's telling that there has to be better education for our grantees in the next period to where they're able to make the best decision for themselves. And I guess, Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only way for them to choose is to withdraw one of those applications in that period for this past grant cycle. Is that the way they would have kind of been able to elect which one? Right.
This one specifically that we're speaking of is was disqualified before that choice would have had to be made because of the timeline issue. And so when it came to us, it still said applicant name was Kenny's Playhouse on both applications. And so there were lots of conversations being had around, what's the role of fiscal sponsorship in there. But what you are speaking to is, yes, there are applicants, not this one because it got disqualified before that step, but that had to choose which one before knowing things like how the applications would score or what the amounts would be.
Right, so they were disqualified, and then the default was to award them the one that was not disqualified.
They were awarded Kenny's Playhouse Theater was awarded an operating grant. So this was disqualified as a Thrive grant because of the timeline review at the time.
I
might not be answering.
No, I think it's less of a question on that. I think I'm just expressing frustration. It feels like our grantees ought to have a chance to rectify little mistakes like, something as small as that when it's so impactful for their funding. And I know that a lot of the grantees have wanted workshops where they're able to even work with each other and I do feel like our hands are tied today as it applies to this appeal, but we have to do better at supporting our grantees in this process. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it's hard to sit up here and say no, even though it feels like that's the only option based on what was submitted. But I just want to put that out for conversation or discussion. But
It looks like that mic is still. Yes, I mean, I know our whole team agrees with you, and we've got things planned, and we've talked a little bit about like a short period after applications close to cure technical fixes, which could have prevented this, and so we'll definitely be bringing recommendations like that when we're back here next month.
And we are going to, in grants committee, also look at that feedback to your point about applying for both. So that will be looked at as a policy.
I guess I'll make a motion if we're ready for that.
Ms. Kirkwood? Very briefly, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, because as we received information about the Thrive grant and the organizational grant having to be one or the other, then I repositioned myself and asked if the company, I submitted an application for sponsorship. And I just wanted to know, was that received?
I don't have the answer to that. That would be our grants manager or Director Batchelder.
Okay.
Yeah, I can answer, or if other staff want to, I can also. So when the application came to us, it said that the applicant name is Kenny's Playhouse Theater, and so that is what I'm not looking at it right now. But that is what I meant by when it came to us, it showed the applicant. And so if it was intended to be a fiscal sponsor, then that's not what came through to us on the form.
Okay. Because I thought that that's what I had to put at the top, was that they were my fiscal sponsor. So I'm unclear on that.
And we're happy to or I guess it has to happen now. Did we just 1, 2, 3? Are we still good?
Well,
Okay.
What she's saying fundamentally changes everything.
We've got. I didn't want to call Sydney if she doesn't want to weigh in, but it looks like she won't. Okay.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to speak to you all. So the way that it works is that there's two portions on our application. We have the submitter profile, and then we have the actual application profile. So in our case, the submitter profile shows Ms. Kirkwood's name. And this is also someone who could serve as like a grants manager or a coordinator, or a sponsored research person could be the submitter and not be attached to the application at all. In this case, the application still belongs to Kenny Dozier. The way that it is listed on here, it has his address, it has his personal information, as it is his application, the way that it was submitted. We spoke about this a few times in our 101s. We explained that you could, as it stood at that point, that the guidelines said that it had to be either or. So even if the application had not had the tech issue or the tech review of denial for timeline, it would have still been denied, because at that time, an operating application under Kenny existed, as well as a Thrive application.
We changed that information to fiscal sponsorship.
So the fiscal sponsorship information was inputted correctly. The way that we had to do this when the fiscal sponsorship requirement was made is that on Submittable, we did what was called an additional form, meaning that it did not change the original makeup of the original application that would have been submitted previously in 2024. So that information for Kenny's Playhouse Theater to serve as the fiscal sponsor is correct, but the original application still showed Kenny's Playhouse Theater as being the applicant itself. So either way, the fiscal agent information was correct, and had this been an approved Thrive application, it could have and would have been submitted as Kenny's Playhouse Theater being the fiscal agent. So yes, to answer your question, it was received, but the application itself would have not been approved because it was a duplicate under Kenny's name. So. Are there any other questions in regards to that?
That we know of to correct. I mean, I don't know what else to do, like how to do that correctly.
Thank you, Sydney. It sounds like the tech review piece is where it was hitched up. Is that right? Yeah.
Any other questions for me?
Anyone have any questions for Sydney? Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Okay, I'll circle back to the recommendation to deny the appeal request for the Thrive project titled Dominique's Dominance. I need a motion.
I move that we deny the appeal request for the Thrive project titled Dominique's Dominance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Yes, I abstain.
Commissioner Cole is abstaining. So the motion passes, and I'd like to encourage you both to apply again this year. And if you have any questions, one-on-one grant needs, clinics, anything like that, we're all here for you. So thank you for taking the time today. On to our third appeal, The Art of Naturally Being, Volume 2, documenting hair stories and the effects of the beauty industry for people of color, Thrive Grant. And this is an action. The appellant has 3 minutes, followed by interim executive director by 3 minutes.
Do we have an appellant for The Art of Naturally Being, Volume 2? There's no appellant present.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move into Director Batchelder.
Do we still need to make a motion about the appeal, even if there's not an appellant here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the appeal was properly received, so
Yeah.
the commission needs to action it.
Oh.
So the appeal for this one is in your packet. It's another short one. The merits or the description of the appeal that came in said that the applicant was not prompted to upload additional forms in the application and that all the required information was included. And so they had some confusion about the reason for their denial. And so you see in my response in your packet, I described the missing information in their application. This was an organization that would have required a fiscal agent, as the applicant themselves was not a 501c3 nonprofit, and it did not have the other required forms included as well. And you'll see in your packet, I included the communications that had been sent out about that, both unsubmittable and via email, informing applicants of the new requirements, and that without that information submitted, we're not able to award a grant without the requirements. So they were also disqualified in the technical review stage. And I did not receive additional information from the appellant after this process here was informed to them.
Thank you, Director Batchelder. Director Batchelder's recommendation to deny the appeal request for the Thrive Project, titled The Art of Natural Being, Volume 2, documenting hair stories and the effects of beauty industry for people of color. We need a motion, please.
I move we deny this appeal.
Second.
Second?
I'm sorry, second. Heather, okay, thank you.
It was from Lefkowitz.
Okay. Any discussion? With that?
I would just, again, encourage that if the applicant is able to apply again, we would welcome that in terms of the additional information.
Thank you, absolutely. And with that, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Any opposed? Any abstaining? The motion carries. Okay, so moving into part 3, Public Art Committee. And I'm the chair of the Public Art Committee, and we have 2 projects to bring to you today that do need action items, and they're both very exciting. The NYCE Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment. Attilio has been working extremely hard on this along with the team, and let's have it, Attilio.
Please don't deny me. Sorry.
Please don't deny me.
Next slide, please. All right. This is a very exciting project. I know it's been a long haul right now, but at least with us, coming into it right now, we're working on a lot of great projects. One particular that's coming up right now is the Nashville campus, the Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment. And this is just part 1 of what's going to be part 2. Part 2 I'll bring later on in a couple months that I'm still planning, but I'll give you a teaser. We're calling it the Empowerment Collection, and this is going to be able to open up more opportunities for a lot of more artists. But just to stay on point, Let me give you a quick briefing of what we're looking at here. The new campus is going to be moved over off of North Nashville, next to Madison, off of Trinity and I-24. It's a 14-acre site. It's going to be in District 2, Councilmember Toombs. And the brainchild of this campus is from Judge Sheila Calloway. It's been working for her, I believe, for 12 years, since 2012. So this is a long time coming. And our metro partner with that would be General Services. And the interesting about this is that the anticipated opening is January 2027. So a very, very short timeline. Next slide, please. And this is what we're looking at right now. I want to start off with just looking at some images. This is going to be the principal entrance to the courthouse itself. It's going to be a 5-story complex. And so everybody and anything is going to be walking in through here. And one thing I want to point out is it's not just juvenile children that are going to be, or adolescents that are going to be going through this in terms of different situations and whatnot. But they're going to be also providing services for adoption. They have a program called Safe Babies. And this whole campus and facility is not just a detention center and a courthouse. There's also going to be a lot of therapy. There's going to be a trade courses and classes, such as recording studio, barbershop, cafeteria, whatnot. I mean, it's a full-blown complex. And I'm really, really excited that we're actually going to have something like this. I've never seen anything like this ever. So next slide, please. And so this is what we have been given, which is the right wall of the entrance of the courthouse. With the previous image that, and we don't have to go back, what I was trying to point out and I failed to mention is that the whole entrance here is going to be, covered up with, or encapsulated with glass windows. So we're going to have natural light coming from the front and also from the back. So as you walk in through the courthouse, it's going to lead you to the various rooms and courts and floors. But then once you get past that point, there's going to be a courtyard. So it really gives this really, in my impression, it's almost like a museum. Sorry, I haven't eaten. With that being said, I want to get what we're looking at in terms of the whole site of the artwork itself. It's about 1,300 square feet. I know it might be a little confusing you see 2 boxes there, but at first, just to give you some context, they only gave us one portion of it, or they gave me option for 2, and I said, why not use the entire space there. So that's why we're going to be able to use the entire wall. To give you details about the goals and how we're going to release it, it's going to be an open call to artists, meaning it's going to be a national call. That does not mean that local artists are not able to participate. It's just something that we do in terms so we make sure we have a good pool of candidates for our selection panel to decide and go through. And so for that being, it's going to be an RFQ. And this is obviously for artists or artist teams. So if there are any artists who feel that they don't have the skill set themselves, if they're strong in one area or another, I would encourage them to build a team, hint, hint. I've known a lot of artists who have started off on teams and then branched out later and then later gone to a different, level. So I would definitely encourage that. And so the call to artists, I am looking to release it next week on May 5th, provided that you approve today. And I'm looking to close it in June 16th, which would give me about a month and a half to receive applications. And then from that point on, we will also then do an eligibility review. We would have a citizen selection panel go through, and thank you for being anticipated there. And thank you, Chuck. Here outlines some of the rough months that we're looking at in terms of what the process is. There's going to be 3 rounds. First round is an online review, which I'm going to hold in August. Once the selection panel reviews online, they'll come in round 2, cut it down to a short list. From after the short list, we will take it to PAC and then back to you, Commission, so you could see who are the selected artists in the short list. And then we will conduct the final round to see who is the selected artists, then we will come back and bring it to you. Can you please go back to the previous slide? Sorry. One thing that I mentioned is like what you would be approving here today is the budget, which is $400,000, and also for it being an RFQ at the national level. A couple of things. I know we're pressed for time, but I do want to bring up a couple of things. That there's certain, in terms of, there's been questions about eligibility, and I hope artists are listening here. When it comes to eligibility, if you already have a current contract with Metro Arts, you would not be eligible. Another thing too, we've actually has happened before, if you work for Metro themselves, you would not be eligible. So all of these things are gonna be spelled out into our call to artists. So I would ask for them to review it thoroughly. And we do have a period where they can call in and ask specific questions in terms of like eligibility or anything else related to the call that we may provide. So with that being said, PAC recommends approval for a public art project for the Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment, an interior wall-mounted artwork for the courthouse lobby with an artist budget for $400,000, and an open call to artists with the national eligibility, which is be the RFQ. Next slide, please, for questions.
Thank you, Attilio. I know how much hard work is going into this, and those of you that are not familiar with the Empowerment Center, it is one of a kind that has been in the works for over a decade that I've been involved with. This is one of several projects that we'll be bringing to you guys, and we have looked at the budget, we have made changes with possible inflation, and PAC is bringing this to you all as a full recommendation for this. So that is that. Questions and discussions?
Just a quick question. Thank you, Attilio. For the artists will not submit a final proposal during the selection of the final artist. Will they do engagement after that and then come back to PAC with the?
That is correct. And to clarify, this is not an RFQ, so when they submit things, they would not be able to submit of what they think. One thing in terms of our process with an RFQ, we base things off of their qualifications, bio, history, and whatnot. And then as we, get down to the short list, there'd be extensive interview with them. Once we have our selected artist, they will be, part of the agreement is that they conduct community engagement, at least a minimum of 2. Based off of those engagements, they would have informed information on to base the artwork. So after that portion, they would submit a concept design proposal that would also be looked at PAC and the commission. Thank you for that question, Commissioner.
Attilio, can I ask one more question? To clarify your last point, when you were talking about the artist guidelines, you can't receive funding, like a Thrive artist, like someone couldn't receive funding for a separate project and also apply for
Correct.
this.
Right now, as the current guidelines read, okay, and take into account, this is something that we're also looking at. When they drew this up, I don't think Thrive or Operation or anything that was existent, but currently right now, if you are a Thrive or has, and I believe, contract in general, public art grants, operations, whatever, you are ineligible. You will not be able to qualify.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion. Thank you, Tilio.
Thank you.
Call for a motion.
I move we approve the public art project for the Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment as specified.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wade. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And then we're moving into Arthur Avenue, public art final design, y'all. Thank you, Ann Leslie. This has been a long time coming.
Thank you all for sticking with us throughout this long meeting. I will be very quick. Chuck, if you'll go to the next slide. For those of you who've been on the commission for a while, you're already familiar with the Arthur Avenue project. This has been one that has been in development for some time, something that has been so wanted by the community, and we're very excited that it looks like it will be happening very soon. This is a project that started with community organizer Simone Boyd reaching out to Metro Arts. We received a $75,000 NEA grant, National Endowment for the Arts, and that project was focused on the interest in public art lighting for the Arthur Avenue underpass in North Nashville. It's been a major concern. Safety and lighting in that area has been a major concern for residents. Well, that grew into a much larger project where we are now. We increased the artist budget, and we have added site work, and they have the commitment of the National Department of Transportation. They are a great partner on this project and have committed $100,000 towards infrastructure for the project. Go to the next slide. So what we brought to you months ago was the concept that artist Alex Braden brought when he came to us as one of the semifinalists for the project. And what's on the left was his original concept. It's a little hard to see with the bright lights here, but it is very similar to what he has in his very final design. What we did remove was the mural showing the movement of water along some very long abutment walls and the benches that were on the side. And this was due to maintenance concerns, conversations we had with NDOT and TDOT and other Metro officials about those benches. You know, there's really not a good space for those benches. Where the artist had actually suggested they might be is on a sloped abutment wall that's actually owned by TDOT. So that would have been really tricky. And for the mural itself, that would become our maintenance responsibility if we had moved forward with that. Instead, I think we have done something that is even better. We have talked to TDOT, and they have shared their federal palette of colors for transportation projects, and the artist has selected or is in the process of selecting one of a few very beautiful blue colors, reverent blue colors. And by using the solid color rather than an artist mural, we will have TDOT and NDOT who will be working with us, and any maintenance that's needed, any repainting, that will be something that they will take care of. And I'm very pleased we were able to add the addition of repainting the I-beams. If you've been to the site, you know that they are now a green color, and this very much fits in so much better with the artist's vision to paint them this same blue color. So we've stayed very true to the original concept, but there are some changes and wanted to bring these to you. So this is just some narrative that artist Alex Braden has written about the project. It is a dynamic canopy of LED lights referencing the nature and movement of water as an homage to the resilience of the North Nashville community neighboring the Arthur Avenue underpass. So these will be programmed lights set against this reverent blue background. Next slide. Just last week, we were able to show some of those blues under consideration. We met with residents, council members were there, and had a really great update meeting about the project. And truly, this is a project that has directly engaged those who have lived here for generations and honoring their stories. And so we are very, very pleased to finally be bringing this to you. So the recommendation comes from the Public Art Committee, recommends approval of artist Alex Braden's final design for the Arthur Avenue Public Art Lighting Project.
Thank you, Ann Leslie. The time that has gone into this and all of the amazing effort, I can't wait to see it. And thanks to Alex and thanks to you. Does anybody have questions and discussion about this specific project or for Ann Leslie? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve artist Alex Braden's final design for Arthur Avenue project, public art lighting project.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. Motion passes. Okay, moving into Grants and Funding Committee. Commissioner Lefkowitz.
I'm just going to, well, we can just look at these slides, and Ashley just jump in, but this is the payment status for FY25, which for new commissioners was very delayed. But we do have now 165, 90, and 75. 162 of those contracts have been executed and 150 grants paid. The remaining 15, as you can see, just waiting on approvals, contracts, things like that. So almost there, right, for FY25. And then we can go on to the next. Do you want to talk, Ashley, about community engagement sessions, which that was our goal, was to do community engagement. We're trying to, move on an accelerated timeline so that we can get money to people sooner this year. So you want to give us an update on those?
Yeah, just briefly. We plan to be doing a lot of different engagement events and things as time goes on, so this is not it. If there is anything that we heard across these 5 sessions, it was do more of this. It was thank you for coming out, providing these updates. People had lots of questions. People wanted to connect with each other. And so we will definitely be carrying these activities on through everything we do moving forward regarding grants. But what you see on the slide here is just the 5 meetings, 4 in person, 1 virtual, that we completed over the last 3-week period or so, as shown on there at different locations, and the number of attendees that went there. So in total, it was about 70 people that participated in these meetings. What you have here in your packet is a sort of descriptive report that provides a little bit more information. You can read it for yourself, of course, but on page 2 and 3, what I've done is just put some examples of conversation topics from the engagement events. And so this is not meant to imply that anything listed here is representative of a consensus or a recommendation or anything beyond examples of the conversations that we had. But you see, we had great conversations around Thrive. We talked a lot about the applications. We talked a lot about how the review process works. We had questions about fiscal sponsors throughout all of the meetings. There were both Thrive applicants themselves who had identified fiscal sponsors and fiscal sponsors in the room, and so there was lots of sort of generative conversation around that. But there was overall a request for more educational resources about that, kind of examples of how that partnership can look with different decisions that have to be made, and we've got examples that we can use of just how people are doing that right now. We talked a lot about the operating guidelines, of course. We talked about the current pass-fail method of scoring applications, which overall people believe is the right approach to take, because that really is about access and it's not about competition so much. We talked a lot about budget ranges. I won't go into the details there, but they are in the detailed notes that follow the summary. As we saw here today with some of the appellants at multiple sessions, our small, our micro organizations did talk about it's kind of 2 years in a row where you were allowed and encouraged to apply for both grants, and that decision was then changed at some point in the process. And so the confusion and the frustration around that and the impact that that policy decision has had, as voiced by some people impacted by that, and it sort of is the larger observation around how applicants make the best choice. If the policy remains as it is, what is the best choice for them for which grant to apply for? We talked some about underrepresented council districts, and it was really just questions around, well, this could mean this or it could mean that. How would this work? What about this factor? And so some of those things are, again, in the detailed notes, but no real sort of consensus on that. And like I said, people just appreciated the opportunity to come out and see different spaces at each location that we went to. Folks were like, wow, I didn't know this place existed. Glad to know about this sort of these third spaces that are in the community and have opportunities to connect with each other, including first time, or they're not applicants yet, but people who had not applied for grants before. So it wasn't only just our current grantees coming, but it was people who were interested and wanted to know more about Metro Arts. And so after the summaries there, you have the more detailed notes about each session. And so, again, thanks to the staff for helping support this and taking the notes there. The resources that were used for these engagement sessions are on our website as well. I know I've gone through those slides in the grant committee, but if you haven't seen those slides and you would like to see them, you just go to metroarts.gov, and it's right there on the home page. So I just want to do a quick run through. I know that we're not really having a discussion about this right now, but this is for you to take. We also have an online survey that is open right now that is some facilitated questions or some questions to gather additional feedback. And I think people who are interested are spending a lot of time with the survey. So it's pretty long, but every question is optional, and you have the link in this packet here so that you can go see it yourself. But the folks who are engaging with it, I think there's about 14 responses. They're providing pretty detailed and thorough responses. So,
and we want to encourage people who, if you want to submit that feedback, now's the time, right, really to do it. And you can choose, you don't have to commit to the whole survey, but we are looking actively at everything people are sending in. And because we're working on a quick timeline, we may not be able to make major changes, but we want to make impactful changes that we can as a grants committee. So please complete that.
If you go to the next slide, I think that ties into what Commissioner Lefkowitz just said there. We have, sorry to interrupt you, do you mind? As part of the informational presentation portion of these meetings, I share a much more general timeline so that we can really tell people what to expect, the month that we anticipate applications open, the month that we anticipate awards being made. And so folks are able to see that we really only have a couple weeks left here to really finalize our guidelines and any changes to our policy, any changes to our processes, to move through this approval as shown on the screen, coming to you all next month, going to the Metro Council, having a month for applications to be open, having a month after that for applications to be assessed and scored, and then coming back to you in August. And we know that moves us then into contracting, which takes a month for organizations to accept their grant, collect the information we need from them, process the contracts, do the invoicing, doing what we're finishing up right now. And so when we kind of lay that timeline out for everybody and we see that puts fund disbursement for the next cycle toward the end of the year, approximately October, November, people understand why we are trying to move as quickly as we are moving right now, even as we are on this overlapping timeline with our current cycle. And overwhelmingly, the direct feedback that I have heard from people that I have connected with one-on-one and people at these meetings was, yes, keep moving. And so to make process improvements as we can right now, make some policy changes, and let's keep the conversation going.
I would say too, we have a grants committee meeting on the 22nd, at which time we'll be bringing guidelines and our committee will be discussing. So that's an important meeting for community members and other commissioners if you want to watch that. And then, sorry, 19th, that's what I said, the 19th. No, it's not. The 19th. And then we go directly just a few days later to the 22nd, which is our next commission meeting, at which point we hope that we'll really be voting on these things in order to keep to this timeline. So any watching or reading that you can do to keep yourself up to date before that would be so appreciated.
And I'll say, again, this is mainly for anybody viewing this than you in the room. You know, I don't promise that we're going to keep to this timeline when we're talking about it. And so I'm clear that if we encounter delays, it is going to be in these next few weeks. And so that is likely to be a delay that could be between 2 and 4 weeks, depending which part we get stopped up on. If it's at commission that we decide we're not ready to move forward, or if it's at the Metro Council that we decide we're not ready to move forward. Those meetings only happen once a month or twice a month, right? And so any potential delays would move this by up to 4 weeks, but not, I don't have any reason to believe longer delays like that we're the kind that we're coming out of right now.
And last thing I'll say is that in terms of thinking about getting on a schedule and getting us, and then even addressing some of the larger problems, there'll be other columns, right, that are coming, like for thinking about next year for our committee and thinking about larger policy issues that we want to really talk about that we may not be able to fully address this year. So we're just going to keep adding columns and trying to help individual artists and organizations know with clarity what can be expected. And yeah.
I know we're past the point for community engagement, but I was just curious if Metro Arts ever partners with organizations beyond the actual venue for community engagement, and if that's an opportunity with the survey to send that out to partner organizations so that there's more than 14 responses for feedback.
Yeah, we would love to do that if you have folks in mind.
Yeah, any suggestion about how to get that survey out more widely, I would love.
And you'll see in your packet, but folks who came to these meetings had ideas about how we can partner once applications open. We had people say, I've been doing these grants for quite some time. I would love to mentor someone. I would love to open my space up at my organization if you want to host a grant clinic here. And so people want to partner, and we want to partner with anybody. So absolutely.
Also potential sites for office hours, drop-ins, directors things as well. Could widening that scope would be also something that I would love, to your point. Okay, so I think that's it for us. More next month for sure.
So thank you both. More to come. Thank you. Audit and Finance Committee, we had a meeting. Tim, you got a brief update?
Yeah, so the Budget and Audit Committee had its inaugural meeting a couple of weeks ago. Just as a bit of history, in the circumstances around Metro Arts in early 2024, Metro Finance and Metro Legal asked us to bring together an ad hoc committee called the Budget and Oversight Committee, which watched over sort of moving out of those circumstances in 2024 and then was seen to have run its course in late 2024. But because we think it's still important to watch over the budget and to make sure the audit corrections are implemented well, we formed another ad hoc committee called the Budget and Audit Committee. So this is the second iteration of that committee. We did meet last week. We discussed, budget and audit. So the budget process, as we all know, the mayor's budget will be released tomorrow. And then on Thursday, May 14th at 4:40, I think it's on the next slide here, they'll have the committee budget hearing, and so all commissioners are welcome to that. I think Ashley can talk a little bit more about that. And then on Tuesday, June 3, will be public hearing on the budget before June 30, when the budget should pass. And then, Ashley, do you have anything you want to add to that? And then we can move into the audit and the status of the audit and where we are with that as well.
Sorry, I changed the slides around on you. So the slide just got put up here. I just wanted to emphasize on here, that, as we talked about earlier, commissioners are welcome and encouraged to come to our department budget hearing. That will be myself, our brand new finance administrator here, the chair, and any other commissioners. I think council members, are heartened when they see commissioners coming to these meetings and doing all the things that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting here. So I'll send follow-up information about this, and anybody who is available, we can kind of strategize around, or have a conversation around what that'll look like when we get there. And so I'll send a lot more information out about the budget. Capri, do you want to just introduce yourself? You'll be a really integral part of this committee, and maybe just I don't know if we gave you the mic at the beginning. Did I just forget that, or? Okay.
Well, good afternoon, my distinguished colleagues. I am Capri Harston. I am coming to you with 26 years of higher education finance and administration. In some of my previous roles, I worked as a director of student accounting, Bursar, and so I've got a lot of lengthy experience in business and finance, in the accounting sector, in the budget, and I think I've spent the bulk of my career in Illinois. I have only been in Tennessee for a few years, and it has been a delight to be in Tennessee. I have worked at both large and small institutions, most recently here at Tennessee State University. And so it's my pleasure to join you all.
Thank you very much. You are, your position has needed to be filled for quite some time, and we're excited that you're on board here. Thank you very, very much for jumping on board with us. With that, we'll move to the second part of the conversation we had
Hold, please. As soon as Commissioner Lefkowitz walks out that door, we break quorum. Real briefly, I do want to say, because I think Chuck was going to lean to this, our AmeriCorps volunteer is no longer with us because AmeriCorps is no longer with us. No, that's it. That's all I can give you. There can be no commentary.
Yeah, Chuck, do you want to just tell us what happened briefly?
If we have about 5 minutes, we can probably finish out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pivoting like we do. I just have a little something to say. I just want to take a quick moment to thank Harper for his service with Metro Arts via AmeriCorps. Some of you may have read that AmeriCorps NCCC program was shut down earlier this month, 2 days ago, in between some pretty great community partner meetings. Harper and the AmeriCorps program with United Way and Hands on Nashville were notified via one email that they and nearly all of the AmeriCorps programs across the nation were shut down immediately. Anyways, I just want to I could say a lot more, and I'll say it off the camera with anybody who wants to talk about it. But personally, I want to publicly say one more big thank you to Harper and AJ for their work with AmeriCorps while helping Metro Arts the past year and a half. I know Metro and Nashville are both better for their service and commitment to help others in the arts. I want to leave you with sentiment shared by the contact and friend who helped run AmeriCorps at Hands on Nashville and United Way. In an email to the AmeriCorps members, Megan said, "The work you have been doing is incredible and appreciated. We are sorry to see the program ending abruptly, as well as any impacts that will have on your programs and personal plans." So thank you one more time for AJ and Harper for all they did. Yes, the next episode of Metro Arts Forging Ahead at NECAT, and then there's a slide and all that stuff, but we need to get out here and eat, y'all. Everybody here. And then the other one, as far as specifics for community engagements going into next month, we had a coffee talk this morning at Art and Soul. That was great. And next month, May 14th at 5.6, a new gallery photographer studio in 5 Points East Nashville on May 14th. So that'd be a great chance for anybody to come out and recap on where we are with the grants that are not approved yet for the next guideline. And I do want to say special shout out to the spaces that we went to that Ashley mentioned. Everybody's Studio 615, Trinity Community Commons, Centennial Arts Center, and 100 Taylor Arts. That was great. And a side shout out to Commissioner Hardin and Commissioner Wade for showing up for one of the meetings we had as well. So thank you so much.
The audit is being implemented, and we are on schedule. We can just leave it at that. We've been in contact with Bill from the audit department, and they are happy with our progress as well. So we can leave our report at that.
Thank you, thank you. Anything else before we adjourn?
I'll just send y'all some updates via email as my report. The information about the budget, the key dates coming up was the main thing to emphasize there. So you'll get that as follow-up materials.
And Commissioner Hardin has a brief update with CARE.
Just very quickly, I know that staff has been meeting with the community members of CARE as well as myself separately. I think there's some ongoing discussions about committees with community members across departments in Metro. So we're just kind of staying updated on how that impacts CARE. But yes, I will leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardin. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for the extra time.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.